Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
Oh, just fine, thank you.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ken. Nelson, good morning.
Good morning, classmate.
So you guys ready for the class to get a little easier now? We had the harder part already done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, David, I started thinking about, I forgot how to sweep and mop a floor unless I have a measuring cup in my back pocket.
It's funny because in having different people, when we first introduced this class, where I was teaching it, the group I had, we did there at Gerber, and we probably had 75% was from Elk Grove School District. It was right before COVID or a year before COVID. And amazingly, the chemistry portion was the one that none of them had any training on, because through the district, there's just not a lot of training in that stuff. So it was a fun course, but we ended up having a lot of fun with that class. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I know we've got a couple people that we're waiting on, but we'll get started with our lesson today. Nice to be able to transition now away from chemicals and start to focus in on the actual cleaning, as Tony or Mark said. Was it Tony you said that? Nice to transition away, learn how to use the mop and the broom again.
I haven't had my coffee.
So, as I mentioned the other day, from here on out, as we go through these lessons, we're going to specifically get into, the procedures of how we clean an area, but we'll also always identify first, what equipment do we need? What are our materials that we need? And what are the supplies? And if we remember what equipment is those items that we use that are more of things like a scrubber, a buffer, vacuum cleaner. It's the tools that we use that we're going to have for a long time. And then the materials are the things that we use, but we have to replace a little bit more frequently. things like a rag or a cloth or dusting tool. Those are some of our materials. And then supplies of those items that we're going to be replacing frequently, such as our chemicals or garbage can liners, paper supplies. Those are the supplies that we use in this program. So that being said, we'll identify today really all the different equipment that we use in this part of the business. We'll get into some of the materials and chemicals. On Friday, we'll talk about the procedures. And, first and foremost, when we start to think about above floor cleaning, we're talking about cleaning the areas that are not the floors, everything else. So that's going to be the lights, the vents, the high dusting, the dusting of desks and tables. All those areas are what we're referring to when we talk about the above floor areas. And that would include things like the vacuuming of certain things. Like you notice I have a curtain here as a divider. Periodically, those would be vacuumed. They're above floor. They're going to accumulate dust, so they need to be vacuumed to keep them clean. Window cleaning is part of above floor cleaning. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about how we clean windows and the difference between, an exterior window, interior window glass, such as you'd see in a partition or an office building, and then as well plexiglass. Plexiglass is a different, more softer material, and as a result, it could scratch easier. So we'll talk a little bit about how we do that. So that kind of lines us up for what our discussion will be about today. And a couple things that are of note, when it talks about cleaning above floor surfaces, why is it so important that we clean? Well, obviously, as we discussed in the introduction of this book, we clean for those building occupants, right? Everybody who is a customer, but we clean for their health. And that's the reality, is we have to think about why we do what we do. And it has to do with cleaning for the health and welfare of people, those building occupants. If you think about it, if we don't clean the building, what's going to happen? Dust is going to accumulate. That's going to create a breeding ground for bacteria or pathogens that we talked about in this last lesson. And as a result, people are going to get sick. In fact, there was a term used a number of years ago called sick building syndrome. And that had to do with the fact that people would get sick when they come to work because it was not a clean facility. And it has to do with everything that we do, but it can extend even beyond. Those of you who work in maintenance, it also has to do with the filtration, the HVAC system. Those are important parts of it. So from our standpoint, the things that we can control, we can help to keep a building clean and then contribute to the health and welfare of our customers. In addition, think about this. Don't you all enjoy working in a clean environment? When we have to work in a dirty environment, it affects our morale. And when a place is clean and organized, things are picked up and put away, you feel better. So it contributes to a positive working environment. The other part of it is an interesting thing. We all form opinions about a facility based on its cleanliness. An example is when we go into a restaurant, a lot of us will judge a restaurant based on the cleanliness of the facility, the front end, the seating area, your table, maybe the restrooms. So if those areas aren't clean, a lot of the times we will make the judgment that if that's not clean, then how clean is the back of the house, the kitchen, right? Do we want to eat in that environment? And I know women are even more careful about that subject. And at least I know in my family, my wife and mom are very picky about, where we go to eat, it's got to be clean. So we make opinions and judgments about a facility based on its cleanliness. But what else is a factor? Okay, not just how it looks, how it feels, and the health. What about how surfaces last? For example, if we don't keep things clean and we don't keep the floors clean, how long do you think the carpet or laminate or whatever type of flooring is going to last as sand and debris build up on it? It's not, right? It's going to wear out faster. So keeping a facility clean and keeping those surfaces clean of debris really extends the life of the building. There's been some studies shown that have to do with the longevity of buildings and how long surfaces last. And for example, on floors, the average vinyl floor, even though it may be in use for 10 to 15 years, usually wears out without good maintenance in less than 10 years. But I've seen floors that have been properly maintained that will last 20, 25 years because they have a maintenance program and they have had since the beginning. So it really affects the cost of that building. From the standpoint of ownership, they look at replacement cost. If they have to go in and replace the carpet regularly because it's worn out, we can extend that life. We can reduce their cost. So all these different factors, the lifespan of the surfaces, the extending the life of the building, the health benefits, the benefits to the appearance, the perception of customers and of people utilizing that building, they're all factors when it comes to cleaning, which means it's really vital that we do a good job, that we take pride in our work. So I always encourage people that when you do janitorial work, if you were a carpenter, you love people to know that you built something. If you built a piece of furniture, you're like, I built this. Well, as a cleaning professional, to me, I want to be able to say, I cleaned this. I could put my name on it. That's a clean area, and Dave Swindle cleaned that area. If you remember one of the videos we showed of the high school custodian, that he said, that's the cleanest toilet you'll ever see is one that I cleaned. That says something about how he takes pride in his work. And really, those are factors that contribute to our attitude about our cleaning. So that being said, that just kind of outlines how important our cleaning is in what we do. And that means we start to look from the beginning at our tools, at our equipment that we're going to use, and being organized on how we do it. So again, the comparison of a carpenter, if a carpenter goes to a job site and he's got his tools all strewn about, right? He doesn't have any bags. He's maybe, where's my tape measure? Where's my hammer? How efficient is that carpenter? He's not, right? And in fact, you wouldn't even think of him as a good carpenter because he doesn't have his tools together. Where's his hammer? Where's his tape measure? Those are critical, vital tools that he uses. Well, the same is true for us as cleaning professionals. So we begin with the cleaning cart. Our cleaning cart, we had originally talked about our janitor supply closet, where we store all of our supplies, having it nice and organized and safe. But now we take our utility carts, our custodial carts. And those form the foundation of our cleaning equipment. Everything that we utilize to transport our tools and equipment, our materials, our supplies, utilizes that cleaning cart. And that's why it's the first thing discussed on this lesson. I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to go into a little bit of the presentation that ISSA has put together. So bear with me. Let me make this a little bit larger for us. I realized why my mouse has problems. It's my second monitor is give me the issues, so forgive me for that. So we look at the first thing. We're starting to look at the equipment, our janitor or custodial carts. And there's a variety of different carts that are used in the cleaning industry. The first is what we would call a full service cart. That is one that you see pictured on the screen here. Black cart. Why do you think it's called a full service cart? What do you guys see there that helps us to see that we can use it for everything?
You will have your mop bucket, your spray bottle, your wet sign, your
You got muted there for a second, Nelson. Yep, go ahead.
Is I'm still there?
Yep.
Your lobby broom, dustpan, your rags, what you need, your trash bags, and the cart itself.
It's pretty much got everything, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I might miss something.
I think you've got the gist of it, is that it's going to have all the core tools, our tools for cleaning the floors, our trash, all of our supplies, our materials on it. Everything that we need to go do our job is on that full service cart. They're fantastic for getting stuff around, especially, if you're working as a school custodian, you're doing multiple rooms in a night. If you're cleaning, you're usually probably doing 20 or more classrooms in a night. If you're working in a healthcare environment and you're cleaning hospital rooms, same kind of concept. It may be set up differently. You might have, more paper supplies on that full service cart because, hospital rooms, every room's got a little restroom, so you're going to have supplies for that. You might have different types of mops and so forth, but in general, it has everything you need. Now, there is a more compact cart, and those compact carts are designed a little smaller because of the fact that they can be utilized to go beyond or go for areas where we don't have a large area. For example, I cleaned a small preschool. And what I would do is, depending on the size of the school, I either had a compact cart that I put a small amount of supplies, a mop bucket on, and I had a trash bag on the backside. It was a lot more compacted. I didn't need to carry as much supplies. Or I even used what is pictured. If you look on page 36 of your book, you'll notice the trash receptacle with a utility apron wrapped around it. In some job sites, that's what I would use. And it worked really well because I could put different chemicals on there. I could put paper supplies towards the bottom. It had slots where I could put my dusting tools. Really great, great cart for use like that. We got a little bit of feedback from somebody there. So if you're not talking, if you guys do me a favor, just mute your microphone. Okay. Now the other one is what I would refer to in healthcare like a room servicing cart, but really room servicing carts are used mainly in hospitality. And if you've ever gone where you're staying in a hotel and you've seen the housekeeper's cart, they're a lot bigger, right? They've got all the toiletries, the little soaps, and they have to stock a lot. Plus, they're going to have more laundry items, fresh towels, linens that they have to have. In fact, they may even have 2 room service carts. One that's a room service cart, and another might be like a laundry cart for collecting all the dirty laundry, the towels and sheets and bedding. So they could be using a combination of those. In fact, you might even use a combination in your roles as a school custodian. It's not uncommon to use a full service cart, but because you have a lot of garbage, you might have a large trash cart or an extra trash can because you're collecting a lot of the trash. So it's not uncommon to use a combination of those. The key to making sure that you have a cart that works well, though, is one, to keep that cart nice and clean. Keep it organized. And one of the things I tell everybody is keeping our tools clean and organized is a opening and closing responsibility of every cleaning professional. It's something you do at the beginning of your shift, and it's something you do at the end of your shift. At the beginning of your shift, you make sure it's fully stocked, because you don't know what happened during the day. Somebody came in and borrowed stuff off your cart, messed with it, they got into the supply closet, whatever the case may be. Make sure you have all your tools together. That is always one of the first things I recommend to anybody who's doing cleaning is gather your tools, get everything together. So that's the variety of different carts that you might use. And all these carts have a different role. You're going to use the one that's most efficient for you, but whatever one you use, be sure you keep it clean, organized, and ready to go to work. The book talks about the utility aprons and belts. Those are designed to possibly wrap around a cart, but you also might find a cleaning person, perhaps if you're doing windows, to use a utility belt. Anybody ever seen professional window washers, the way they go about cleaning windows? They'll have what's called a strip washer, and we'll talk about that later. But these utility belts allow them to put their window washing tools right on their belt, so they're not having to stop. Because think about cleaning windows. They're going along, and they might do 40, 50 windows in a building easily. So they're working along very quickly, and they keep their tools together with them. They don't have to go back and forth and waste time. And that's the key to a good cart program, is making sure that you have everything you need and you don't have to waste time. So you want to make sure you have that. The other piece of equipment that we use is our sprayers. Now our book talks a lot about trigger sprayers. In all honesty, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about trigger sprayers. You know, there are a couple of key things to realize. Trigger sprayers will wear out. To me, I wouldn't even list it as a piece of equipment. I almost think of it more as a material because they wear out so quickly. But also know this, that if you are working with solvents or you're working with harsh cleaning chemicals, like sometimes even bleach-based products, you're going to find that sprayers wear out quickly because they will corrode the workings of it. So to that extent, sprayers also, they make what's called chemical resistant sprayers. There's a variety there to use. One important point, though, that we want to be aware of when we talk about trigger sprayers is this issue regarding indoor air quality. Now, when we use a trigger sprayer and we spray it, it's atomizing whatever chemical we're using. So you're wanting to be careful to make sure that you don't spray where somebody else is going to breathe that in real quick, because you can make somebody sick with it. Now, if you're stupid enough to spray it towards your face, then you probably shouldn't be doing this job in the first place. Okay? Just not safe practices. But think about other people in the area. There are times that we are cleaning and there are people who are utilizing the building even while we're cleaning. If you ever get a job where part of your job is called a day porter, where you're cleaning while the building is open and has occupants, you'll see this like at the airport. Robert, you worked out at the airport at one point, right? Okay. Cleaning people are working while people are flying in and out, utilizing that airport. The airport only has a few hours a day that it has little to no traffic. For hours from about 4 a.m. to almost 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's people coming and going in there. So because of that, you have people sitting. You want to be careful that you don't spray a chemical in an area that'll make people sick. One of the things I recommend, in most cases, if you need to spray a chemical onto a surface, instead of spraying it on the surface, spray it on your rag and then wipe the surface clean. You're going to be more effective, and it's not going to use less chemical, but it's also going to be safer. Okay. One last safety issue regarding trigger sprayers and spray bottles. We talked in the issue just the other day on safety about spray bottles and OSHA, that every bottle has to have a label on it. Remember, we mentioned you never use a spray bottle that is not properly labeled. And never bring in a spray bottle from your home that doesn't have an SDS and is properly labeled. It's a good practice not to bring stuff from home to use at work. Let your boss, your company that you're working for, whatever organization, let them bring that to the table. And if you feel like you've got a product that works, then talk to your boss about it. Nelson, go ahead.
When you were saying trigger sprayer, are you talking about the mist? Or are you talking about the nozzle on the trigger that the mist come out, the solution come out?
Yes. Yeah, I was talking about that spray that comes out of the trigger sprayer. That's what could get people sick, because we're atomizing it. We're breaking water down into smaller droplets to get it to spray out. And that is even true with foggers and now electrostatic sprayers. Those sprayers put out a fine mist. You'll notice that there are times when guys are using this all day long will actually wear a respirator because they're working with stronger chemicals like the quaternary ammonias or quats or sodium hypochlorite, which can cause respiratory issues. So they'll wear a respirator for that. Guys.
Hey, David, do you have this document here on the class website yet?
Yes. Yep, absolutely. It is in the section under above floors, basics of above floor cleaning. All right. So we've talked about sprayers, we've talked about carts. Let's talk now about vacuum cleaners. And there's basically about 4 main types of vacuum cleaners. And you'd think, well, why are we talking vacuum cleaners since we're talking about above floor cleaning, not carpets or hard floors? Because vacuum cleaners are used beyond just what we use to clean the floors. As I mentioned, cleaning the drapery, you would use a vacuum cleaner. A lot of times, vacuum cleaners are great for dusting, especially getting cobwebs in a building. You might use the extension pole and be able to suck up and get stuff in the corners and edges. So vacuum cleaners have a lot of different purposes. The 4 basic types of vacuum cleaners. We have what's called a handheld duster vacuum. Those are designed for small messes. We might use them for cleaning like upholstery. A lot of us may have used them for cleaning our cars, where you have a little small portable handheld vacuum. It used to be called a dust buster. Dirt Devil made a lot of them that people would use. They're usually inexpensive. They're good for light duty tasks. You can buy them where they plug in, or they're battery powered. A lot of times battery powered are real easy to use everywhere. You typically will not see a lot of use of this in the commercial cleaning world. If you're using one of those, you're going too slow, and they're just not real efficient. The other type is the tank type or canister vacuum. So if anybody has ever used a canister vacuum, canister vacuums are very efficient because they provide great filtration. They can move a lot of air, and they're not hard on your back as far as pulling it along and using the tool. But the negative to a canister vacuum is now you're dragging something along, and it may run into areas. You might be pulling it around and it knocks something over. So from that standpoint, again, not highly efficient, but a lot of times in a housekeeping environment, they're a fantastic way to do it. So if you ever do get into the housekeeping business, which I have friends who've graduated from this class, and they are now running housekeeping businesses, one of which does construction cleanups and also does cleaning for model homes. So what's really cool about that, they found the best vacuum for them is a canister vacuum because they have much better suction. They don't have to worry about it being on their back, and it's able to get everything. They can get dust in corners. They can use it to clean out window tracks. Fantastic ability to do a lot with a lot of power. So they're really good tools. Now here's some of the attachments that can be used on those. You can add extra sections of tubing. In fact, one of the ones I'll be giving you guys an assignment, by the way, to look for some of these tools on the internet. So you guys are going to do some research and find pictures of different tools. Tony, you have your hand up.
So would that be also to like a shop vac, wet and dry?
Yes, well, I would refer to that as a tank type of vacuum.
Okay.
So yes, that would be in that same realm.
Okay.
Yep, shop vacs. Now, one important thing about use of a tank type vacuum is if you are using that, you want to make sure you convert it over. Tank type vacuums are designed where they can be used wet or dry, but don't do wet and dry at the same time. If you got it set up for dry use, don't pick up wet material. It makes a mess, and it's not a clean way of doing that. So if you're picking up wet and you occasionally pick up a little dry, that's fine. But generally speaking, I tell people set it up correctly. And the reason being, if it is set up for dry, it'll usually have a paper filter or bag in it. If it's set up for wet, that bag is removed and it goes all into the tank, and then it's poured or dumped out. Some of the other tools that you might use with these tank type or canister is you may have a small round brush or tool for doing dusting of surfaces. Okay. You may have a fan shaped tool that I call a crevice tool. Okay. It looks kind of long, it has an angle to it, real thin, allows you to get into corners and edges. They're fantastic for doing those crevices. I mentioned actually a fan shaped tool for vacuuming upholstery. I think that's referring to more of a wider at an angle like this, and they're designed so that it looks like more of a hand tool. And that's great for doing things like vacuuming off chairs and upholstery. So again, a lot of different tools that you can use with these different vacuums on the tank type. Now, the most common that you guys will use will either be uprights or backpack vacuums. Now, among the people who have done cleaning, and I know we have a number of you who have done janitorial work or are doing it, how many are using or have used a backpack vacuum? Robert, Nelson, you both have? Okay. Ken, did you ever have to clean your bus when you were doing bus driving?
Yeah, but it was like we didn't get to take out too many supplies, so we had to go walking back and forth to the janitorial maintenance part of the building.
Okay. Yep. Nelson, you had a comment?
Yes, I like the what's the backpack vacuum. The
Yep.
only downside is that when you do a classroom and when you have desks, the desk that's on the floor and the cord get wrapped around the legs, and you thinking that you're gonna go a step farther, it wrapped around the desk. That's the
Pulls you
only
back.
downside.
Yep. You know, and I will tell you there's good news. There is now more and more vacuums, companies that make backpacks that are making them cordless because the battery technology's improved a lot. Tony, you had a comment.
Now, that just gets me thinking when I hear Nelson talking, I kind of start to envision, a large building and access to these tools and equipment. So you're on the far east end. You don't want to walk 20 minutes to get to a main closet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm now looking at kind of thinking about it as a day in the life. You got to have multiple closets probably, and
large buildings do, Tony. That's
Okay.
a good point.
all right.
A lot of times, if you have a large building, you may have a janitor closet on opposite ends of a long hallway or on different levels. If it's like a large office building or even in a school that has multiple levels, you'll probably have supply closets located throughout the building. Nelson.
And the first thing you would like to do when you start, cleaning or vacuuming, you want to look for the outlet. That's the most important thing, looking for an outlet. If you work in the school district at an older school and compared to a new model school, and you know where the outlet, but with the older outlet, it could be someplace cover up. So that's the first thing you want to look for when you start vacuuming. Even before you start vacuuming, scope your classroom out and look for the outlet.
Get to know your building, yeah. And Nelson, it's not just in a school. I came from my most recent manager job was we were managing cleaning grocery stores. And within the grocery stores, you don't think about it, but grocery stores don't have a lot of outlets in the grocery store. Most of the outlets are up at the check stands. Robert, you had a comment.
Yeah, I use a backpack vac every night cleaning Southwest airplanes.
Are you using a cordless one now?
No, we're not, because we have more power
Okay.
with the cord.
Okay.
But it's just a straight line down and a straight line back. So, but
Yeah.
I do know about the cord getting caught up on a armrest.
Yeah.
It will stop you. Yeah. And as far as plugging them in, if we do what's called a remote, it's not at the gate. We have to run a generator to power that airplane
Right.
in order to get the power to the vacuum.
If those of you guys who don't know, Robert actually cleans inside airplanes for Southwest Airlines.
Yeah.
So he's actually worked in the airport, cleaning the airport itself, and now he's working doing this. And, again, same situation, all the same rules apply, even though it's a vehicle, right? He's cleaning for the health of the occupants. He's having to do a lot of the same principles. It all applies because there is the dusting, there's the vacuuming, there's disinfecting. So all the principles that we talk about in this class apply exactly to his world. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
So a couple things about backpack vacuums I want to address. One big concern is the weight of the backpack vacuum. From the beginning, a lot of people worried about how heavy is this? Is it going to, if I'm working for hours and wearing this on my back, is it going to hurt my back? Well, understand this. A lot of technology has been put into how backpacks are used and how to properly fit them. I will post in the classroom. I'm not going to cover it in the class where we're covering it in our session, but I'm going to post some material from and links to companies like Protein, who is one of the largest manufacturers of backpack vacuums in the United States. They talk a lot about properly fitting a backpack vacuum. They build harnesses so that it's properly fitted, so it distributes the weight, especially across your hips. Because if we can carry it down low where that weight is dispersed and carried more on our hips, it's a lot better for us, and it's not pulling up on our shoulders. But it also requires, if it's properly fitted, that you walk upright, that you're not bending over, right? Techniques about how to use it. And Protein, because their specialty is backpacks, has spent a lot of time developing technology into more efficient ways to vacuum. I'm going to stand up and demonstrate something. A lot of times you will see vacuuming where people are doing this thing, right? Back and forth. Now, where is the strain? First of all, I'm leaning over. The strain's in my back and my arm. But if I'm wearing a backpack vacuum, the technique is designed nowadays to be turning and twisting and to keep my core straight up and down. So I'm more efficient with it. And as a result, I don't get the fatigue that I might. Now, the other part of that is understanding that with a backpack vacuum or any vacuum cleaner, the concept of vacuuming involves pulling air through. It's a motor, right? So it's just pulling air through, and it pulls it through one way and blows air out the other side, right? It's just a vacuum. That's how it's created. Is it has a fan, pulls air one side and sends it out the other. In the middle there's somewhere where it has a filter where all the dust and debris is captured, and then the air blows through that and it is dispersed out. One of the problems that can happen is if you do not change your filters, your bags, two major issues occur. One is it's bad for the vacuum because it'll choke off the vacuum itself. Bad for you as a person, because not only is it going to start to spew out dirt into the environment, it also adds weight to it. The fuller that bag gets, the heavier that vacuum gets, right? So I recommend that you dump your bags when they're about half full. Don't wait for it to get all the way full. The reason, if you keep it where you don't fill it all the way up, I have air flow through it, it doesn't choke it off, and I'm getting more efficiency out of the vacuum motor. So yes, it does mean I'm disposing of material more often, but the reality is the capacity, even though it has the capacity to fill all the way up. And I will tell you guys, I have worked with janitorial staff. I have seen it with my own guys working at my team, where they will fill it all the way up and I go to use their backpack because I just needed it for a few minutes, or their vacuum, and it's not picking up. First thing I do is I check the bag, and what do I see? The bag is completely full. The vacuum doesn't work. So again, that goes to maintaining your equipment. And then the last vacuum is that upright vacuum. Now there's a real advantage to an upright vacuum, and there is a place for an upright vacuum. A lot of times upright vacuums are great because they have a beater bar to them. Okay? That beater bar helps to brush against the carpet itself or the floor and kick the debris or dust up and be able to pull that through, and it gets more dirt out of the carpet. Remember, we talked about there's two different types of soils. There is dry soils and there's wet, sticky soils, right? Or oily soils. The dry soils are a huge part of removing that as soon as we can so they don't contribute to that oily, sticky. Because it's a lot easier to get dry soil out than it is the oily, sticky. So from that standpoint, beater bars on a upright vacuum really help us to get more soil out of the carpet, and they have a lot of advantage. A lot of times companies, even if they're using a backpack vacuum, will periodically use some sort of upright to periodically clean. Nelson, go ahead.
All right, so with the school district, they had a upright vacuum, and then they switched to the backpack vacuum. Do you know why?
Yeah, efficiency, because time is of the essence. So, you're able to clean more with the backpack vacuum, and also worker fatigue. Those are two major reasons why most school districts switched over. That, and I will tell you, most schools are going away from carpet. It is part of their long-term plan to replace carpet in schools. I've been in a lot of meetings over the last 5-6 years in discussions with schools about removing carpet in favor of luxury vinyl tile floors or polished concrete, because they're a lot easier and more efficient. And so as a result, they're going away from needing a vacuum that has a beater bar. Okay. But let's go back to an airport. There are times, even in an airport or an office building, where it has large amount of carpet, and an upright vacuum can help us. And especially they make what's called a wide area upright vacuum that can cover 2-3 feet wide. And those are fantastic because we can cover a lot of surface. Alex, you had a comment or a question?
Yes. When you said polished concrete, like sidewalk pavement?
No. Think about grocery stores. If you've been in Costco, Walmart, a lot of the grocery stores, several of the Rayleigh's stores there in Sacramento. In fact, Rayleigh's two newest stores, the one downtown on Freeport and the other one out in Rancho Murrieta, both are polished concrete floors. And it's a concrete that is polished smooth and sealed so that it doesn't get a lot of stains. So, in fact, in our advanced course, we do discuss how polished concrete is achieved, and I do offer a specialty course on doing polished concrete. So, it's a fun course to learn. Okay, so we've talked about the 4 different types. Let's talk about some maintenance of these. One important thing is the plug, the end of your cord. Never use a vacuum cleaner where the ground has been removed, okay, or where the cord itself is frayed. If it is frayed, then it's not safe. Especially will that start to bite in the butt if you're using a tank type vacuum where you might be using it wet, or if you're using a backpack vacuum. I have seen people get little zap from the cord because it's frayed and they didn't maintain it. And that has to do with how we wrap up our cords too. Making sure we wrap them up not real tightly, but loose enough, and allowing the cord to wrap up the way it naturally will versus fighting it. So many guys will yank a cord out of the plug, or out of the socket. They will turn around and wrap it tightly around something. And over time, that starts to wear out your cords. If a cord's worn out, get it replaced. Within the school district, a lot of times there's programs where vacuums can be taken out of service and sent over to maintenance or somebody within the custodial department who replaces those regularly. And there's a process. You can buy replacement cords easily. So remember to do that. If you're using a vacuum cleaner that is got a beater bar, replace the belts periodically. Make sure that those are checked and replaced. Make sure that your bags are replaced regularly, that you check your bag at the beginning and the end of the shift. If you've sucked up and you've cleaned some really nasty area, dispose of the bag and put a clean bag in it at the end of your shift. Other things such as making sure that the hoses themselves are not clogged. A lot of these vacuum cleaners are designed now where I can remove the different parts and check my hose and make sure it's not clogged or filled with debris. Tony, go ahead.
So that's where within facilities where groundskeeping, janitorial, custodial services work in tandem with like maintenance, like breakdown of equipment, things of that nature?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that occurs whether it is in a school district, you'll see that within a hospital, care facilities, a lot, departments work together. Most large buildings have both cleaning staff, maintenance staff, and those who do specialty work, electrical or whatever. And so they're there to assist with that. And whether it's training somebody that has been taught, that's their job. Somebody does that. But equipment that is not properly maintained will wear out quickly, and as a result needs to be replaced much sooner. When we start to talk about hard floors, which will be our next lesson, you're going to learn about some equipment called automatic scrubbers. And automatic scrubbers utilize batteries. Batteries have to be maintained. These pieces of equipment need proper maintenance. So just make sure that you guys are maintaining your equipment, or your team is. If you're the one who's using it, you're the one who should be responsible for keeping that machine well maintained and reporting it to your management team that says, hey, this vacuum is not working properly. If it's not safe, then tag it and take it out of service. Talk to your boss or supervisor. Say, I need to get a replacement vacuum. This one is not safe. It's got a short in the cord. Whatever the case may be, and do that. So, all right, so we've mentioned the different pieces of equipment. So if you notice in the screen share here, equipment, long-term use, we have our sprayers, carts, vacuums, and then like utility aprons or belts. Those are all pieces of equipment that we would use. Now, a few questions that come up. What are the different types of vacuums? Just as a review, the handheld, upright, or tank or canister, and then a backpack vacuum. Again, I tell you guys these things because this may come up on testing. All right, now let's move on to the next part of our what we use, and that is our materials. So in above floor cleaning, we don't have a lot of materials. We really have basically two key materials. We have dusters and we have rags or cleaning cloths. So let's deal with those two different kinds. The first is our dusters. And dusters are things like you see in this picture here that has got a long wand and it looks like a large Q-tip. That's a lamb's wool duster. Lamb's wool dusters have become very popular. Other types of dusters are those that are using feathers, like ostrich feathers. The reality is we don't use a lot of feather dusters anymore because, one, not really good for the environment. We're pulling off of animals to do that. Plus, just from the standpoint of the availability is become more scarce. As well, we can do it synthetically with lamb's wool type of dusters. And lamb's wool is not true lamb's wool. It's just a synthetic fiber material, but it has that feel of what looks like true lamb's wool. What's nice about these lamb's wool dusters is they use static electricity to help to pick up dust. And one of the things is to understand that dust typically has a positive charge. So if we have a negative charge, and that's what will happen with a duster, is it creates a static charge and it attracts it just like a magnet. So it's a fantastic way of doing it. Plus, we're not shaking it. You know, you think of a feather duster, right? And you're shaking it all around. You're almost spreading the dust. Nice thing with the lamb's wool duster, you take it right across the surface, like off a screen or a desk, and it picks up the dust to it very well. We use them a lot for high dusting to do things like fan blades, light fixtures. They're great for doing those things. Now, one of the newest kinds of dusting tools is microfibers. And we're going to take a minute after we finish this lesson about the different equipment and tools and chemicals. We'll come back and watch a video about microfibers and discuss that a little bit more in depth. But suffice it to say that when it comes to dusters, the two best types of dusters out there are either lamb's wool or microfiber dusters. And I'll explain as we talk about the wipes what microfiber is. The other part of our tools, or material, sorry, is the wipes, cloth wipes. And there's basically two different types of cloth wipes. There are dry wipers, towels, right? And that could be anything from a cotton towel to a muslin cloth to now even microfiber cloths that are typically dry. And then there are treated ones. Treated cloths are, if you think about it in a wet method, when you use a disposable wipe, like the disinfectant wipes, that is a treated type of cloth. And we actually make treated cloths for dusting. They're usually made from cotton and rayon fibers. They have a chemical treatment to them that attracts the soils. What's nice about a treated cloth is they pick up a lot more than a dry cloth will. So a lot of times from our standpoint, we want the tool that's going to work the best, the material that's going to work the best. So treated wipes are fantastic. Interestingly, it says chemically treated cloths of any kind should not be discarded in the custodial closet and allowed to accumulate because they can catch fire under certain conditions. So when you use treated cloths, where you're buying treated cloths, dispose of them in the trash, in a bag, tie off the bag and throw it away because they have oil in them. They're treated with a type of furniture polish or something along those lines. So just a rule of thumb, don't dispose of them without throwing them in a bag. The other point, don't use a treated cloth to clean windows, mirrors, or other glass items because they are treated with an oil. You're going to streak it. Funny story. Here at our house, we combined a lot of chemicals as we moved our households together with my mom moving in with us. And my mom and I both have been in the cleaning world for a long time, and so she had her products. And I happen to have this particular cleaner that's a glass cleaner that I love to use. Her stainless steel polish is in the same looking can. It is blue and white, just like my glass cleaner. And I grabbed the stainless steel polish. It was sitting right next to the glass cleaner. I grabbed it without reading the label. I'm used to my cans. Started cleaning my glass in my office, and I started to clean my my monitors. And I, as I do, I spray it on my microfiber and I start cleaning it, and immediately it starts streaking. So I stop. What is going on? I'm looking at the rag. I look at the can and I'm reading it. Oh no! I just used stainless steel polish on my monitor. Now the good thing is, I knew it, and so I got the glass cleaner, a new cloth. I washed the other one out, put it in the laundry, but then I got the glass cleaner and removed the film off of there because it'll leave an oily film. And another scenario with regard to this, we had over at the class that we do out at Rio Consumnes, we have a copier and we make large amounts of copies of our coursework and our curriculum because we can't use computers for our students out there. And they were using a wipe that was a treated disinfectant wipe to clean the touchpad because everybody was touching the touchpad. Guess what it did to the touchpad on the copier? It created a malfunction so that it had created a film on there, and it started to malfunction where if you hit the button, what you thought was to make 20 copies, it wasn't performing the function that you thought it would perform. It did something completely different because it started malfunctioning. It was a film that had built up because of that. So just be aware when you're using a treated wipe, not to use it on electronics. Don't use it on monitors. Don't use it on glass surfaces because it'll leave that film. All right, so let's talk a little bit about microfibers. How many of you guys use microfibers in your home or have them for your car cleaning? Anything else? Anybody use microfibers? Okay. Anybody know what a microfiber is? Who can tell me what a microfiber is? Nelson, you're talking, but you're muted.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. A microfiber will collect the soil because it's like a magnet that agitate to the soil, and it collects the soil. I know it do more than that too.
So let me explain what a microfiber is. Okay, we all know what polyester is. We've seen shirts and clothing made out of polyester. Okay, polyester is a synthetic fiber. Well, polyester, there's another fiber that's similar called polyamide. Polyamide is just a synthetic man-made fiber. What they've done with polyamide fibers is they found that they can make this fiber extremely thin. In fact, it is finer and thinner than a human hair. And what's really cool about it is you can fray this just like a human hair. So women, about split ends, right? How when your hair splits, it has these little hooks, and split ends aren't good for our hair. Well, for microfiber, split ends are wonderful. They create little hooks. And what that does, between the fact that it has these little hooks that allow it to grab, and the fact that it is a statically charged fiber, it creates a fantastic tool to pick up dust and debris and to clean surfaces. Microfibers, the more expensive ones, have more density, more fibers per square inch, and are split more often. The more splits, the better it works. It has more hooks to it. So that's really the simple way of understanding a microfiber. In addition, because it's a man-made fiber, man-made fibers don't look nice and clean and round. Okay? They actually are extruded, and if you want to think of like an asterisk, do you know what an asterisk looks like? The symbol of an asterisk? That's kind of what a microfiber fiber looks like. So when we start to split it, it creates all these nice, amazing little hooks that allow for us to grab it. Some important things to know about microfiber, because they're fantastic for picking up dust. They can be used both wet and dry. So for dusting, a lot of times we'll use a dry microfiber for dusting purposes. But if we need to do wet cleaning, it's great for cleaning glass, because we can use it even with something as simple as water. So Nelson, out at the school district, you guys have aqueous ozone. Aqueous ozone and microfiber is a powerful 1-2 punch, because first of all, you have this oxygenated water that wants to grab a hold of stuff. Then we have the microfiber that mechanically is removing it. So remember when we talked about cleaning action of chemicals, right? Chemicals had the ability to break soils apart, right, through dispersion action. It had the ability to lift and separate. Well, mechanically, okay, through a physical action that we use a wipe, we can actually pick up soils as well with very little chemical, because the wiper itself does part of it. So if we combine the two and we use a little less chemical, just enough to get it to lift and separate off the surface, we can remove soils easily. And think about it. Most surfaces that we clean above floor, are they porous or not? What do you guys think? Look at your desks. Okay? Everybody's got a tabletop or desktop. Is it pretty smooth and flat, or is it open and porous? Smooth and flat. I can read your lips, Ken. That surface, go ahead if you want, Ken.
Who, me?
Yeah, were you saying something?
Oh, no, I was just saying it was smooth.
Yeah. Glass is nice and smooth. Because it's smooth, we don't need the chemical to create as much separation. A lot of times we need chemical more on more porous surfaces, like a porcelain sink or porcelain toilet or a fiberglass bathtub. Those things are porous, right? Those we need the chemical to penetrate, because our rag's not going to get enough to remove it. So that standpoint, we do need the chemical to work. But from the standpoint of using just a simple microfiber cloth, amazing what it can do for us. But some important rules, because remember, it's made out of a synthetic fiber. Never ever use, when we wash it, fabric softener. Because if you use fabric softener will coat the fiber and eliminate that charge to it. So it basically becomes worthless. If you ever wash a microfiber with fabric softener, change it from a cleaning rag to a polishing rag and start to use it with oils, because that's all you're ever going to be able to do with it. It will not work for cleaning. Number 2, never use it with oils such as for polishing. So with stainless steel polish, furniture polish, we never want to use a microfiber with that, because it's going to grab a hold of it. Microfibers are wonderful because they love both water and oil, so they'll pick up both. It doesn't matter. But if you are cleaning with an oil substance like furniture polish, which has solvents or oils in it, don't use a microfiber. Lastly, when you go to wash them, use something that is a perfume-free soap, and don't dry it on high heat. Microfibers are made from synthetic fibers. High heat will start to destroy them or ruin the fibers. One of the things, the tools that we use in janitorial, some school districts and facilities have gone to a program where they use a special washing machine in the janitor closet for their microfiber. They can throw them all in. It'll wash it, but it spins it dry. It doesn't actually have a drying heater in it. It just spins it enough so it's dry enough that we can turn around, fold it up, and reuse it the next day. So that's some helpful tips when it comes to it. Tony.
When you're talking about aqueous ozone, is it ozone is just basically water, right?
It is a treated water.
Treated water. So is that in a bottle? Is that in the dispenser?
So it is a dispensing system. I think I showed you guys a video the other day of the machine from Tersano.
Okay.
That what it does is it charges the water, because it gives it an electrical charge that is similar to what happens in the atmosphere, where water is charged in the atmosphere and it creates ozone. Once it does that, then that water itself has an extra oxygen molecules, because ozone is 3 oxygen molecules. It's O3. So aqueous ozone is water, H2O, plus ozone, O3. So it's actually 4 parts of oxygen. And as a result, that extra oxygen molecule wants to break free and attach itself and help to do similar to what adsorption does and dispersion, where it breaks soils apart. Nelson.
We had a discussion last night.
I love that.
We were talking about the ozone. So one of the employees said, all right, so if you have your ozone in one bottle and you have water in the other bottle, how can you tell which one going to clean?
Smell it.
Yeah, so that's what I was telling them, and they would say, well, sometimes custodians don't pay attention, and they're just going to grab and thinking that it's the ozone, but it might be water. And I said, all right, let's put it to test. I said, all right, we can use ozone. You clean up a bathroom, and then you clean water up, and let's get the blue light and see which one will be cleaner, like that. And it was a funny conversation, and
It is.
And I was trying to tell them that no, ozone do work. I said the factor is that you have to deep clean, you have desanify your area, and then ozone will work better because it will maintain it, like that.
Yeah.
So I have to break it down to them last night and let them know. But it was a heated discussion.
Well, and something you just said is an issue. Custodians, and it's, I just admitted to myself doing it, right? I grabbed the wrong can because I didn't look at it. You get programmed that we are used to looking at something that looks the same. For me, it was that blue and white label. I just assumed it was my glass cleaner. So it's a good practice to make sure that our bottles are properly labeled and that we slow down just a moment and look to make sure, am I getting the right product? And from that standpoint, the aqueous ozone should be in a bottle that is labeled as such. Antonio, you were going to make a comment. We may have answered it for you.
Well, I mean, just about. I mean, you said smell it. So is it going to have a tint of like lead smell or?
No, it's actually, if you guys, you know how people say the air smells different after a lightning storm?
Yeah.
Okay. If you smell aqueous ozone, it has a very distinct, different smell that almost smells like what the air smells like right after a lightning storm.
Okay.
It's got that electrical charge a little bit to it, and the water has a different smell to it. It doesn't smell lead. It doesn't smell medicine-y. Okay, you know how some chemicals like alcohol has that real smell that it just smells like medicine to me. My wife loves alcohol wipes for everything, and nowadays we use aloe to kind of offset that. But the aqueous ozone definitely has that smell to it, and you could typically go into a supply closet that is using it, and you'll smell it as soon as you walk into the room. It's not a bad smell. It's not harmful to us. But I will say this. Ken, hang on one second, then I'll ask your question. Ozone by its nature, okay, if we breathe pure ozone, is not healthy for us. Okay? Ozone, not aqueous ozone. The reason I say that, it is too high of a concentration of oxygen for our bodies. So our lungs don't breathe O3 very well. So that's why when you go up into the atmosphere, and if you were to go into the ozone layer, you really couldn't breathe well. Not only the gravity and the pressure up there, but ozone's not meant for us to breathe. We've been using ozone for 30 years, man-made ozone, to get rid of smells into rooms. Okay, if you've ever gone into a room like a hotel room that smells like tobacco smoke, where somebody has been smoking in there, the hotels will charge you a fee to have that room cleaned. Two things they'll do besides laundering everything, and they have to do something with the laundry. They will take an ozone machine and they will fog the room, and they'll fog it and let it sit for a couple hours, because the oxygen molecules will penetrate into the fabric, the walls, the everything, and break apart those smells. Another example where ozone works to get rid of smells and break things down is in getting rid of skunk smell in a building, where a skunk is sprayed. After the area's been cleaned of that spray, usually with something like hydrogen peroxide, then you would use ozone to fog it to get everything into the nooks and crannies. But when they do that, when they open it up, the person who opens up the room will wear a respirator. They'll go into the room and they will open the windows and they'll vent it out with fans. So there's a process to how we use ozone for cleaning air. So aqueous ozone is now taking that same technology and infusing it into water. And it does work well, but even aqueous ozone, we wouldn't want to drink large amounts of it. If you drink aqueous ozone, it's not going to kill you because there's no chemical to it. It's just more oxygen. But if you drink large amounts of it, not exactly the healthiest things. It's not going to kill you, but it does have some effects. Nelson.
Will it cause you to have cancer because one employee was reading the manual and it was saying while we were using
I heard that.
the mist gun, it was saying that this it will cause you to have cancer.
Nelson, that's a good question, and I will have to research that. I had not heard that. I've done my reading about ozone, and I have not read that anything said that it was a carcinogen. So I'll look into it. Okay. Good questions, guys. I'm enjoying this discussion. All right. So just as a brief review, the term materials is it refers to things that last longer than consumable supplies, but not as long as equipment. Again, another important point for your test. How many materials are recommended for use in above floor surface cleaning? What were those 2 materials we used? Who could help me?
Was it the lamb wool, microfiber cloths?
Yep. So it was a dusting tool,
Okay.
and it was cloths, right? Cloth wipes of some sort. And that could be, like you just said, Tony, lamb's wool duster, microfiber cloths. It could be Turkish cloths. It could be muslin cloths, but those are the 2. All right, our last section on this part, the introduction to this lesson, is the supplies. So if you've noticed, above floor cleaning doesn't need a lot, right? We have our equipment, which is basically our janitor carts, our vacuums, right? Our sprayers. Then our materials was basically dusting tools, lamb's wool dusters or dusting tool, and then a dusting cloth of some sort, cloth wipe. The supplies is the same thing. There's not a lot of supplies that we use. In fact, if you notice, we break it down into just 3 basic supplies. And in this particular, the term supplies, again, is a consumable that we use up all the time. We're constantly having to replace. Chemicals are supplies. In an above floor cleaning, the only real supplies are chemicals. We break it apart into 3 separate ones. One is our general purpose cleaners. Remember last lesson we talked about pH. Now we understand where pH comes into play. Soil is what on a pH scale? Acid or alkaline? Oily, sticky soils are what?
Acid.
Acid. Yes, very good. So being that they're slightly acidic, we're going to use a slightly alkaline cleaner with a pH anywhere between 7.5 and 9.5. And we call that a general purpose cleaner. All purpose cleaner. So anytime you read on a label it says all purpose cleaner or general purpose cleaner, typically it's going to have that pH between 7.5 and 9.5. Slightly alkaline. They're really good for being able to get a lot of that oily, sticky substances off. We don't need it to be very aggressive because we're not dealing with heavy-duty degreasing. We're just talking about, people touching a lot of surfaces, fingerprints, things like that. The other is glass cleaners. Window or glass cleaners are typically around the same, pH 7.5 to around 9.5. Where we have to be careful on glass cleaners is in dealing with plexiglass. Plexiglass is softer than regular glass, and plexiglass is used a lot of times in interior partition windows. You will see it sometimes on entrance doors. They'll use plexiglass. So the plexiglass, because it's softer than normal glass, we want to be careful that we don't use an abrasive cleaner. Remember, abrasives were sometimes those ones, things like Comet or soft scrub that have a grit to it. Now we could use that on glass, because remember how glass is made? Glass is made out of what? Who knows what glass is made out of?
What is it? Silica or sand? Something like
Sand.
And yep. So it is partly mineral. So that being said, using an abrasive on true glass, no problem. In fact, we use abrasive cleaners to remove mineral deposits, because we can use an acidic abrasive cleaner to get hard water or calcium deposits off of glass. But if it was a plexiglass and we did that, we could damage it. We could actually scratch it. So just be aware of that when you're using those. The third supply or chemical that we would use is polishes. And there's a variety of polishes that we could use. We might use a wood polish. We could use a metal polish. Some basic rules about polishes. If we are dealing with wood, we would use a wood polish. A lot of times, though, we are not dealing with wood and we don't need to use a polish. Look at the surfaces around your home. You may have laminate material, right? We have laminated floors these days. That is not real wood. That is a type of vinyl or plastic material that is got a look of wood, but it is not truly wood. An example I have to my desk here in my office. Show you guys a picture of my desk. I have a true wood desk. This belonged to my dad, and before him, a friend of our family's who they had built it about 50 years ago. So this is a true hardwood desk made out of oak material, and it has lasted for 50 some odd years. It's something that when I clean this desk, I use a furniture polish, because wood is porous. So polish restores it. It removes the dust. It does a great job on that. But if I was dealing with a laminate material, okay, we think of Formica countertops, the old countertops that were laminate material, and we took furniture polish and put it across there, would it absorb into it? No, it'd leave it with a residue on it, right? So on those surfaces, a general purpose cleaner is all we need. So be careful that you know what you're cleaning. A good story about wood, though, by the way, is I had an account a couple of years ago when I was doing my janitorial business. This goes back about 3 years ago. That was over in Oakland. And they had this large, big wood conference room table. All glass conference room around. So beautiful looking table. But it had become very dull and worn out. The owner, when I did the walkthrough, because this was my business, I knew what I could do. The owner told me, he says, don't even worry about that conference room table. He goes, I think I'm going to have to replace it. It's old and worn out. I told him, I says, do me a favor. Give me a couple weeks and let me see what you think after a couple weeks of me cleaning it. 2 weeks later, he came back and he says, you know, it looks like the way it did when we first put that in 20 years ago. Because what I had taken was some furniture polish that had a little bit of wax built into it that was like using beeswax on it. Restored it, polished it. It was unbelievable. It brought the wood back to life. So it's a fantastic solution for cleaning and maintaining wood. Polishes will clean a surface, they'll restore it, and they'll also protect it. In fact, anybody have friends that live in Colorado or Utah, Montana, any of those areas, if you buy wood furniture, and a lot of people go to nice wood furniture outlets. If you buy wood furniture out there, they will tell you, make sure that you keep this polished, because the wood, because of the climate in those areas is dry and cold in the winter times, it will crack and dry out. So that wood needs to be replenished. It'll actually split if you don't maintain it well. So that's wood polishes. Metal polishes, again, make sure we're using it on metal. Some things will look like metal, but it's not. But most of the time, things that we would use metal polishes on in our business, metal refrigerators, stainless steel. Everybody loves the look of stainless steel. Drinking fountains. Now, drinking fountains is a real challenge, because drinking fountains, you got a problem with mineral deposits, so they'll get a buildup. But if you have a new drinking fountain and you maintain it with stainless steel polish regularly, it will help to repel the water and keep it from getting the calcium mineral deposit buildup on it. So if you properly maintain it, you can extend the life of that drinking fountain for a long time. But too often I've gone in and seen drinking fountains that look terrible. Brass drinking fountains, you'll see those in some high-end buildings. If you're ever working for some government buildings, like in Sacramento, we have a lot of government buildings in downtown, right? Around the Capitol, we have a lot of the buildings, and they will have brass drinking fountains or brass fixtures, brass or other railings or copper. Metal polishes will help on those to keep them from having a tarnish to it and extend the life. So know, your surface, and make sure that you're using the right products. So our 3 core supplies or chemicals that we would use: general purpose cleaners, glass cleaners or window cleaners, and then polishes, wood or metal polishes. All right. So that takes us to where I want you guys to do some reading. Tony, you had questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of those little sponges that you can buy, like over at the Dollar Tree. They got 2 sides to them.
Uh-huh.
Gosh, I can't even think of the name of it. Anyways, is that effective on metal surfaces like fountains and whatnot?
Are you talking about a Brillo pad that it's almost like a stainless steel material, and it's treated with a little bit of a blue chemical in it?
No, I'm thinking like bald head Mr. Cleaner guy on the label, and it's 2-sided, kind of soft.
Like a white pad?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are called melamine pads.
Hmm.
And Mr. Clean was the first one to really introduce them to the marketplace. Melamine pads have a really wide variety of uses. We can use them on a lot of surfaces. They're great for getting marks off of walls. But what they do is it's a mechanical action. You use them usually typically a little wet or damp. And mechanically, it's removing soils. It's somewhat spongy, but melamine pads are fantastic for a variety of uses, not just on that. But if you have a hard water buildup, what I will do, and so my homework is I'm going to show you some pictures of different types of abrasive pads that you guys can use, and I'll show that on Friday's class. And as well as part of that, I'll post that information into the class. So my job is I'm going to post a couple videos for you guys into our classroom. One about microfiber. The other is, I think there was one other I told you I was going to do. Somebody's going to have to start keeping track of the promises I make in this class.
Okay, it was bugging me. I found it. The magic eraser.
Yes. Yeah, those are made out of a product called Melamine.
Okay.
So I'll do a little bit of homework on how melamine pads work so we can kind of discuss that a little bit. So I'll do about that. The hand pads. Oh, I know what it was. Nelson, you asked about the carcinogen issue on aqueous ozone. So I'll do some checking on that. Now besides your reading assignment, guys, this is one of the things I want you guys to do. I want you as a class to go out, and you can find this on the internet. Just do yourself some research. Look up some of the different vacuum cleaners, okay, and gather some information on vacuum cleaners, okay? Wide area vacuums or backpack vacuums, but we're mainly looking for commercial vacuum cleaners, right? And then secondly, and even though I'm going to have some information I'll post about microfiber, and I'll give you a hint, look in YouTube, because there's a ton of information. Find videos in YouTube about how microfiber works. What is microfiber? How does it work? There's some really great ones that you guys can look at. So one of the really cool videos out there, or a company that does great videos in relation to cleaning tools, is a gal. It's her and her husband that own a business called Clean My Space. And my wife introduced me to this program a few years ago. The gal who owns that company and does it actually has her own cleaning business. She has a commercial and residential cleaning business, but she got into the business of doing training videos, and in particular, she does it for housewives, and a lot of just really cool content about making basic cleaning chemicals that you can do out of stuff. So take a look at it if you have a minute. Tony, you had another question.
Oh no, sorry, let me lower my hand.
No worries. Okay, so you guys are going to do that. You're going to also read ahead about the cleaning procedures, because we're going to go through the cleaning procedures, and we'll focus on the cleaning, but we will not cover glass cleaning on Friday. We're going to talk about everything else but glass cleaning. On Monday's class, we will specifically focus in on glass cleaning, because I like to keep that as a separate class. And there's some cool videos. We'll talk about the process. But what you're going to be looking for is the process. Now, that being said, I'm going to show you something I posted new into today's class. You guys still seeing my screen on the Google Classroom? Okay. At the bottom of the class, you will see I have, now that we have begun the process of cleaning, I have posted our final project. Our final project, which is a project that is going to take everything that you've learned through the course of this class and put it together in one cool project. You guys are going to basically create a cleaning plan for a building. And based on the amount of people I have in the class right now, I'm probably going to break this up into 3 groups. And 2 of the groups will be a little bit larger, but we'll break it up into 3 groups. We'll have 3 separate buildings. So we are going to have a medical building. So those of you who are interested in medical, which I believe is Mark, you are in there, Robert, and I think Tony, are you the one of the other ones told me you were interested in more of the medical side?
Yeah, I'd say so initially.
Okay. I'm going to assign you guys, you're going to be cleaning a medical building, and I'll identify that. So I'm making the list of who the groups are because next week we're going to begin the process of going into breakout rooms. I'm going to teach you guys how we do that. Nelson, since you currently clean in a school, you are not getting a school to clean. Okay? That wouldn't be fair. So you are going to actually be cleaning in a public building, and I'll have you work with a team. I'm going to probably put you with Alex, and we'll have Eduardo, and then we'll also put Tasha into your group. And then our next group will be Ken, Tyler, Christina, and who am I missing? And Arkina. Okay? You guys are going to actually be cleaning a school. Okay? And in each of these, what we will do is next week when we get into our Monday class, I'm going to break you guys into breakout rooms, and I'm going to teach you how we do these breakout rooms. You guys are going to be, at that point, we will be discussing a little bit of the specifics about your building. Instead of waiting to complete your final project until the end, I want you to start thinking about it from the beginning. Instead of waiting until we finish everything, as we complete each lesson that relates to it, you could start thinking about your building going, okay, what above floor surfaces am I going to clean in this type of building? You know, for example, and I'm going to use a building that none of you are cleaning. What if we were cleaning a fitness center, a health club, right? A health club has a huge amount of above floor cleaning to do. All the fitness equipment in the club all has to be cleaned, right? Lots of above floor cleaning to do. If you're cleaning a school, you're going to have desks and tables. So each of these different areas, you guys start to think about that process and think about that building. And as a team, you're going to start to create this. So the reason I wanted you to see the final project now is I want you guys to start looking at this now, to start to grasp the concept that what you're learning is how do I clean a building? Okay. Every time I go to clean a building, I need to identify what equipment do I need, what materials do I need, what supplies do I need. Within the supplies, what chemicals, what types of chemicals do I need? Do I need some alkaline cleaners? Do I need some acidic cleaners? What do I need? And then the procedures. How do I clean it? Now, when we start talking about above floor cleaning, we're not just going to go through the procedures of these are the checklist of everything you need to do. We're going to talk about efficiency. Remember, we've talked about the janitor cart, but how do I efficiently clean that area so I use the best use of my time for cleaning it? That process will play out in everything you do, every procedure. When we start to talk about hard floors, what's the most effective process that's going to use my time most efficiently? When I do carpet cleaning, same thing. When we start to clean restrooms, same process. There are some certain rules that we will talk about. Top-down cleaning, okay? Working in a circular pattern, working yourself around a room. So all that plays into it. And each lesson, I will make sure as we finish up that lesson that you guys get into your breakout rooms and then think about your building that you're cleaning and how do I apply what we learned on that building. That way, when you get down to the end, our last week, you have a pretty good idea of what your building looks like, how you're going to go about cleaning it, And now you start to put together a presentation of here's how we're going to clean this building. Because that's what your project is. You guys are going to present to us, how do I clean this building? And think about it from this standpoint. Your value to your employer, your future employer, is that you're going to be able to walk into a building and be able to, when given an assignment, know this is what I have to think in terms of what chemicals am I going to use? What tools am I using? What type of vacuum or equipment am I going to use? When you see a vacuum, you're going to know backpack, okay, I got to make sure it's properly adjusted. Boom. You're ready to go. So even though this class is not a lot of hands-on, the practical part is in this final project. That's the practical lessons. It also is going to involve some leadership on your guys' parts. Because within your groups, I apologize, guys. I have the itchiest nose today. Keep scratching my nose. We have 2 new trees out there that are in full bloom, and my allergies are just driving me nuts. So, but you guys are going to be able to walk into a building, and immediately you're going to be able to figure that out. So what does that do? It makes you a more valuable employee, a more valuable leader, because you're going to know, why do I do this? Not just my boss told me to do it. And then if certain things don't make sense, after you try it their way, and they may have an efficient way of doing it, you may be able to offer suggestions. Hey, boss, I went through this really cool class, and after I've been doing a little bit your way, I think there's a couple of things that we can do more efficiently and allow me to save more time, so I can have more time available at the end to be able to help out my team. The other portion of our class, and this is going to be what we will finish up next Wednesday on. We are going to talk about the difference, and this is something new to our class. So you are my first class that I am going to teach this to. The difference between zone cleaning and team cleaning. Okay? I've not had this part of our curriculum. It is not in the book, but I am building that lesson for next Wednesday because I think it's a valuable concept for you guys to understand to be more efficient. More and more companies and organizations are using a concept called team cleaning, but team cleaning isn't always going to be effective. So, Tony.
No, I mean, this portion and the way that things are rolling right now, I'm really glad I took this class. I'll just tell you that first and foremost. Because your first impression when you start with an organization and you walk in and you see everything is just like shot to all hell, excuse my language.
Yep.
And there's a lack of supplies and things just are unorderly. And it just, that tone that it sets just on you to do the work is like, man, I mean, just looking at it from that perspective and just having a little bit more professionalism in what you do, I'm glad you're breaking this down.
Yeah. And Tony, I'm glad you said that because I'll give you an example of what occurred last year with the company I'm working with that I'm developing training for, integrity maintenance. They do a lot of the grocery store business, and most of the supplies are being provided by the store. I had a couple of employees who came in. We didn't have a good structured training program. We didn't have a good process where they learn these concepts. And from that standpoint, we didn't even have checklists. It was here, go work with this guy a few days and start cleaning it. And I had 2 or 3 employees who quit right away because they exactly what you just said. They walked into it and they says, they're not organized. I don't feel protected. I'm putting myself at risk with this COVID situation, which we knew very little about. And as a result, they quit. They says, nah, I'm not going to stick around here. I don't feel like you guys have a grasp on how to clean this efficiently, even though we knew how to clean the building and we'd been doing it for a while. Our training program didn't convey that. We are putting a lot of time and energy into that. One of the things I will share with you as a class is when we get towards the end, I'm going to show you guys a program that I've developed for their company, and I'm developing it for other organizations on how to clean a building. And it's their training program. It'll allow you guys to kind of take a look at that. It'll help you with your presentations, even though I don't want you guys to build videos on it. I think you'll get the concept of what we're talking about. At this point, open to questions, because one, lots of good questions and comments out of class today. Any questions about what we've covered today or thoughts? Nothing? Okay. Hopefully I did a good job and I'm not losing you guys. Some of you did. Alex, you had a question. Go ahead.
Go on. I forgot what I was going to say.
No worries. Some of you were able to do the extra material on the dilutions. Those of you who turned that back into me, excellent. I got back to you. A couple of you who did that, I sent back replies this morning. You guys did a good job on it. Ken, great job on that. I could see you got the comment. Yeah, right. But you seem to have grasped the concept a lot better, and I'm hoping that material helps. So if you have not done it, again, it's not mandatory, but it was some extra material to help you guys get it, because now you start to see it wasn't as simple as it seems. So yeah, good job with that. So you guys are getting, as you know, this class progresses. Every class I add some new things to, but you guys are getting the benefit of us doing this for the last couple of years and then bringing this to the table and hopefully getting a little bit more in depth for you. So we're on good pace. We are on track regarding our class. So that's going well. I will start looking today and tomorrow to see who has begun their testing. Again, if you run into problems with your testing, this class is open for you. I'll set appointments and so forth. I'm available. I'm here to help. So take advantage of it. All right. That wraps up today's class. Alex, you did have a comment now.
I remember what it was. So I need to go back to talk about something on Friday. How many tests were we supposed to do?
So right now we have completed lessons 1 and 2. Do not go past lessons 1 and 2 as far as your testing. Okay. There are a total of 6 tests to complete this class, but we are just now starting lesson 3.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yep. All right. If anybody has questions or things that they need to talk to me about, I will leave the class open. But as far as class goes, we are done for today. We will see you on Friday. And again, homework assignment, read the rest of the chapter of the lesson and do your little bit of research on microfibers and cleaning tools. We got a few people who are in the chat, so. Christina, stick around afterwards. We'll talk for a second.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the pre-test.
Yes, sir.
It was your appearance will make impression and affect communication. And they talk about your first expression.
The first impression that people have of you. Yep.
All right.
Yep. So if you look at page 2 under personal image, Nelson, it
Yeah.
talks about that, establishing a positive first impression with customers and employees. And that subheading under personal image addresses about that impression, including our appearance.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. And Nelson, that's exactly, thank you for asking the question. Guys, feel free to ask these questions in, at the end of class when we have these open discussions, because you may find that there's something you're struggling with that somebody else is also just maybe a little unsure of. You're helping out your classmates. So, okay. Christina,